Some of you know I like to spend a lot of my summer out here on this remote property. It's several hours away from home, but my dad lives in the town nearby. Sometimes at night I'll go spend the night at his place. But a lot of the time I like to stay out here and camp. A lot of people enjoy camping for recreation and other reasons, but I think a lot of people make it way too complicated. Much more complicated than it needs to be. You know, the REI crowd. They got to go out and buy all the gear that they think they need to have. They spend weeks planning, making a huge ordeal out of going camping. It just doesn't have to be that complicated to simply sleep in the woods. I'll show you my favorite way to camp. All you really need is just a little bit of gear and one of these. Yep, a pickup truck. If you don't have one, I have no idea how you get by in life. Most people have been sold the idea that in order to sleep out in the wild, you need to have a tent. A big, smelly, thin-walled, bag-like structure to put themselves in to give them some sense of security. Which a tent can have its place, but I say if we're going to be out in the wild, let's be out in the wild. Of the many nights I've spent out in the wild, I say this is so much better than a tent. Why do you think they call this a pickup bed? I'll show you why. This is all I have to do to set up camp. Don't look at the stains on here, that's just from laying it on the dirty plywood. So I put a clean old sleeping bag down just for a little extra padding. Roll out my bedroll. Somewhere where there's warm nights, that's plenty for me, but here in the coastal forest, it does get cool at night. There can also be some dew, so I put down one more sleeping bag on top. These old sleeping bags come in handy. If any family's watching, you might recognize these old sleeping bags. This setup with this pad works well when I'm here by myself, but for two, all you need is a wider pad, the same setup, that works well too. What do you think's better? Going to bed staring at the roof of the tent, or looking out at the stars, into the entire universe? Or at least the part that's right above us. I'll take the stars. It's my favorite way to sleep, to be able to look up at the stars. Even on a cold night, this doubled up sleeping bag keeps me very warm. We can get a little bit of dew here, or a little bit of mist early in the morning. But when I'm really warm in my sleeping bag, having that little bit of mist on my face, it's actually really nice. It's refreshing. Another advantage, you're up off the ground, you're away from the bugs, the mice, the rattlesnakes. We don't really have rattlesnakes here, but or at least I've never seen any. Do you think the thin walls of a tent's going to protect you from the rare occasion that a bear or a cougar or some wild animal might try to get to you? For an animal who might want to eat you, you're just packaged food in that tent. Not that wild animals usually eat people here, but it can happen. When you're in here, you can close the tailgate. If something wants to get at you, it's going to make a lot of noise. I'm going to hear it make a noise, and then I'm going to be able to wake up and deal with the situation. And in the unlikely event that such a situation would arrive, I keep tools next to me to deal with that kind of a situation. Or if a two-legged animal decided to come mess with you, I think you're more vulnerable in a tent, less vulnerable here, where you can see what's going on. You have a better view up here. I said view. A better view up here. You have a better view from up here of what's going on around you. Of course, a lot of people are probably going to think, what about the mosquitoes? I don't know about where you are, but around here, mosquitoes go to bed at night. Right before dark, they're around and they can be obnoxious, but after it gets dark, they disappear. It may not be that way everywhere, but in this part of the world, I've noticed whenever it gets dark, the mosquitoes disappear. Unless, of course, you're indoors. If you get a mosquito in the house or even in a tent, for some reason those ones will keep coming after you even after you turn the lights off. I don't know why, maybe because it's warmer inside. Of course, they may come out when it starts getting light in the morning and start harassing you. But that's just one more reason not to sleep your day away. They're just reminding you it's time to get up. There are things to do. You don't need to be sleeping your day away. Well, that takes care of bed. Dinner is very simple too. I'm not this short, I just have this parked on blocks to level it. That is important. If you want a good night's sleep, park in a level spot. If you can't find a level spot, you can fix that with some things to park on. You don't need a camp table because you have a tailgate. I really like this little butane stove. My sister bought that for me. I've been using it for the last 3 years. I think she bought it because it was really cheap, but I really like it. If I can find them on Amazon, I'll put a link in the description. Light's easy. Just heat up your dinner and off you go. If this video does well, I might do some more videos about easy meals to cook when you're camping. And when it's chow time, you don't need camp chairs when you got a toolbox. Don't pay attention to my dirty windshield. I'm out in the woods. Give me a break. And you don't have to be smelling the inside of a tent all night. Whatever chemical it is they make the tent out of, and whatever it is that happens to a tent when you roll it up and store it for months at a time. You don't have to breathe your already been breathed air over and over and over all night long. Instead, you get all night to breathe the fresh, clean outdoor air and the smells of the great outdoors. If you happen to be sharing a tent with someone who's been eating beans or any other high-octane food, I think the benefits of sleeping in the well-ventilated outdoor air are pretty obvious. Since this is YouTube, I'm guessing there might be some people who will get a little upset with me for dissing the way they like to camp. What I say to that is, maybe you need to go camping more. Spend more time out in the wild. Lighten up a little bit. Don't take things so seriously. Tent camping does have its place. This is obviously fair weather camping. You wouldn't want to be doing this in a rainstorm. I have had a couple nights where I had to abandon ship and sleep in the back seat because it started raining. When it comes to camping, if you're out in the cold, rainy, snowy weather, if you have a nice wall tent with a wood stove in it, now that's camping. I can definitely get on board with that. But when it comes to fair weather camping, I say ditch the tent. If you're in a place where there's horrible bugs that are out all night, maybe that's a different story. Just one more thing and I'll let you go. Before I go to bed, I like to have a shower at some point in the evening, even when I'm camping. I would tell you about the simple way I take showers out here, but I already did a video about that. I wasn't sure I wanted to tell you about that video because it was the first video I ever made, I think. If it wasn't the first, it was the second. I'll put a link to that video in the description. It's a little bit cringy, but I'll show you a very simple way to take a shower. So go watch that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video.